Welcome to Eternal Journey, the podcast.
What is up, everyone, and welcome back for another episode of Eternal Journey, the podcast that talks about all things eternal with a focus on unlimited play. I'm your host, Jedi, also known as Caesar the Crowd Pleaser, and we have an exciting episode this week. For episode 27, we are doing our Trials of Grodov draft primer. That's right, last week, the Trials of Grodov non-campaign was released, introducing new cards into the ranked format for players to purchase on the store. And Direwolf Digital was kind enough to consider us limited players, and so the following week, i.e. yesterday, they went ahead and patched / updated / modified the draft format, changing the curated packs, i.e. packs 2 and 3 that we draft, with a whole new set of cards list. And we're going to actually be going over it today and figuring out what the archetypes are, what new cards we have, what cards we might have lost that were important players in it, and yeah, just kind of get a feel for the new format. So I'm super excited about that. That does mean I'm going to have to update my YouTube and make another playlist for new draft format, because I am getting up there on numbers and I'd rather not keep them all under one draft folder. And that's a great segue into our YouTube channel. That's right, EJthePodcast. That's where you can find all my content offline, or I guess still online, but not live. I have draft videos, I have sealed videos, I have constructed tournament reports, breakdowns of patch notes and all that, and the video version of this podcast. So you might be listening / viewing, watching this podcast right now. So definitely check it out. That is EJthePodcast. Throw a subscribe out there, and that way you guys get notified whenever new videos like this one go up. And speaking of live, twitch.tv /Jedi_EJ. I stream every Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday mornings Central Time. Come hang out, join the stream. Let me know what you think of the new draft format. I'd love to get your feedback on it. It's a good place to discuss things, picks, plays, and all that good stuff. To include misplays, which is a great segue to my shoutout section. That's right. This week, or I should say next week, because they're recording today, I believe, you can catch Mark and Jason on the Misplay podcast. They went ahead and Jason was on my stream the other day and was kind enough to observe one of my horrendous misplays and was like, hey, you want to go ahead and tell that story? I will happily make it the misplay of the week on our podcast next week. So I went ahead and took him up on his offer and sent it his way. So definitely find out what that horrendous misplay was at Misplay the Podcast. Another Eternal podcast, talk about constructed, talk about limited. They're great guys, really entertaining, really smart and strategic guys. Check them out once again, Jason and Mark on the Misplay podcast. While we're on the shout out section, because I am just murdering these segues today, let's go ahead and go into our subscriber shout out section, which this week we have 2 new subscribers as well that I want to give a shout out to. First is Infamy Paradox. That's right. Infamy is one of my longtime followers on Twitch. Infamy, you rock. Thank you so much for the ongoing support. I really appreciate it. You are fantastic and make chat so much better. Next up, we have the Shock Cable. Yeah, that's right. You didn't think I was going to give you a shout out, but I did. And a fellow military veteran. Awesome. Comes on, plays a little bit of Magic, plays a little bit of Eternal, having some great conversations. Overall, fantastic person to have in chat. Thank you so much, you two, for the subscriptions. I really appreciate it. It goes a long way towards helping me to continue down this path and make more content. But all right, guys, that is going to do it for our housekeeping, which means let's get into our episode. Alrighty, guys, our pack 1, pick 1. That's right, it's super exciting. But at the same time, kind of not really, because it's still a Dark Frontier pack. But still, the curated packs have changed. So let's see what exciting synergies we have. Mechanics. Yes. All right. So, wow. So I actually just cracked open the pack online because I'm going to draft hopefully after this podcast so I can put up the first draft video of the new format. I was trying to debate whether I wanted to draft first or do the podcast, but I want to get this podcast out to you guys. So we are going the card evaluation. Anyways, I digress. So we have Char, 2 damage fast spell for 1. Super versatile. I am not super excited to first pick it, but I am happy. I'm fine first picking it. Next up, we have Blink. And not so much, not the biggest fan of tempo plays, but that's the 3 cost, 3 in a time fast spell with warp and put a unit into its owner's hand. Next up, we have Crooked Alley Guide, the 3/3 for 3 and a shadow. It has summon, you scout, and shift 1. Yeah, this card is awesome. Wow. Pretty decent. Like, next up, we have Streets of Flame. It's always frustrating when you see Char and Streets of Flame in the same pack, because you really have to kind of decide, like, do you want the more versatile card in Char because it is easier to leave up? You can do 2 damage to face, you can take out a small player or a small unit, you can, you know, take out a bigger unit, all that stuff, or you can get Streets of Flames, which is a little bit harder to leave up, but you get the scout ability and it can kill a lot more. So I think honestly here I would probably still I would actually move to Streets of Flame. I think there's 3 power or 3 health, 3 damage, I should say, is extremely relevant in this format. There's a lot of flyers that it kills, some decent ground units. It makes it so your opponent can't twist as many times before you can get rid of a unit. And the scout obviously has synergies in this format. So Streets of Flames is my front runner. Next up, we have Belligerent Yeti, the 2/1 Yeti for 2 and a blue, and you twist for 1 to deal 1 damage to an enemy. So on its surface, it's not baseline, it's not that exciting, but if you are able to add health through Furnish or Refresh or something like that, you can definitely ping something down. Fledging Owlet, we're gonna not really do that. Nimble Conscripts, the 3/4. Geez, so much fire in this pack. Oh my god, if you guys are watching this on YouTube, you're probably like, sweet baby Jesus. It would be nice if these packs wheeled, but because we would easily take a fire card to this. But anywho, Nimble Conscripts has 3/4 reckless, shift 1, and for 3 in a red. Yeah, everyone knows it. Really solid aggressive card, especially if you are able to pump it in some form or fashion so it can continue to get damage in. Mining Team, Premium Mining Team, 2/2 for 2, or I'm sorry, 2/2 Grenadin for 4 in a red. It has warp. It has scout when you summon it, and shift 2. Yeah, this card is super flexible. On the surface, you'd be like, meh, 2/2 for 4 doesn't seem that exciting. But the fact that it has warp, the fact that it has shift, the fact that it scouts, makes this card quite solid. I end up being extremely happy having, you know, somewhere between 1 and 3 of these in my deck, believe it or not. 3 is a little high, but the fact that you can play it on 2 and you're able to warp and scout and all that stuff really does pay you off. But so yeah, I think I would still take Streets of Flames here. There could be a slight argument to take the Alley Guide, so you're quote unquote cutting purple, but I mean that's not a thing. Like it doesn't really work that way. So you really much, I would just take the removal spell that's flexible out of all these cards because they're all on similar power level to me. Going to the uncommons, we have Chemo's Blueprints, which I'm not even going to go into it because our 2 other uncommons are just busted. We have Frost Elemental. This is the 3/3 for 3 double blue flying onslaught. Each shifted enemy unit takes 1 additional turn to emerge. That is actually relevant text, believe it or not. There have been plenty of times where I've won a race because I was able to add a turn to, you know, 1 or 2 of their shifted units, especially something large. Let's say the Snow Mass that they bring in the 5/7, they shift it early, trying to get it out there early. I give it an additional turn, get an additional attack they weren't anticipating getting, and all of a sudden the race is highly in our favor. And just a 3/3 for 3 is extremely aggressive and well statted and well costed. But there is a little bit of an argument, and I think I would probably lean once again to 4 fire cards in this pack, and all of them are quite good. Is Combustion Brawler. That's right, I'm pretty high on this card. This card does everything you want it to do. As a matter of fact, if you guys were watching our last stream, we actually lost to Combustion Brawler's additional techs because we had 2 behemoths in play and could not gain life. So let me go ahead and break down the card for you guys if you don't know it already. It is a 6/4 elemental for 5 red. It has Overwhelm, which is great on a high attack unit. The enemy player, just them, just them, not us, just them, can't gain health. Yeah, and with 2 behemoths on the board, that was quite painful. And shift 4, exhaust an enemy unit. Yeah, this is great. You can run it out a turn early. And then later on, it will be able to get in 6 damage unblockable, and then it still has Overwhelm the turn after that. It gets a blocker out of the way for your 3, your 3 and 2 drops. Yeah, Combustion Brawler does it all. I think I would easily take that here. It is a little bit committal because it is double fire for a first pick, but the payoff and the value of the card is just too high. It's totally worth taking, and obviously fire is a much deeper color or faction than primal. But we have a rare, and actually I take that back. Our rare is a legendary. So yeah, let's see if this one can dethrone Combustion Brawler, and I think it can. This is Gar, Master Sandman. Oh god, I have lost this card so bad. I'm actually super excited that I opened it. This is awesome. A little personal side note, I guess. I actually was part of my brewing process for the cards from for constructing an expedition. I went ahead and added Gar because of the shift mechanic on him, which we'll talk about in a second. But luckily I have this habit of whenever I craft a legendary, I try only to craft 3 of them in case I open one up. And sure enough, here we go. I got rewarded, got my 4th one in draft. The Gar is a 2/1 mage for 1 at a time, so you're already good on stats, but there's more. When an enemy unit with flying is played, silence it. What? This thing just straight up well, not dispels because it doesn't draw you a card, but it just straight up silences any flying unit they play. So your opponent is stuck on a really interesting debate on whether to play the unit just for simply adding the stats to the board, or they get stuck, or they have to keep it in their hand until they're able to deal with Gar. And man, sometimes you just don't. Like, granted, this is the format with, Granite Coin and Char and some other ways of killing units, but man, sometimes Gar just doesn't. But here's the thing though, it has, like I said, it has a shift 5, silence each unit in the enemy player's hand. So I mean, later on, so obviously you can play them on turn 1 if you have them in your opening hand, and if you don't, later on in the game, if you can drop, you're on the play, you play this, you can silence their 6 and their 5 and 6 drops, and he stays on the board at least for 3 turns shifted, so they can't target him. So anything they draw has to get stranded in their hands. Like, oh god, Gar is so good. Yeah, so long story short, guys, we're slamming Gar here. Windmill slam for the win, and he's easily to splash considering he has a 5 shift and only a single time influence. Right, guys, that is our pack 1 pick 1. What a way to start the new format. All right, guys, let's go ahead and dive into our main topic, which is the Trials of Grodov Draft Primer. So it was just released yesterday. I have not had a chance to play it yet. So we're looking at it raw. Gonna look at the cards. I actually was making a bunch of show notes and then realized they were so extensive that I should just go down the draft packs card list live with you guys. So that's what I'm gonna end up doing. Granted, I did go through all of them, but we'll go on them. If once again you're on YouTube, you're able to see these on the screen so you can follow along with me. All right, guys. So a couple of quick things. Like I said, packs, Dark Frontier packs are going to remain the same. So packs 1 and 4 are still going to be the exact same packs that we know and love and are comfortable with. So the question now is, what did they change in packs 2 and 3, and what synergies and archetypes will remain, and which ones are going to be modified? If you guys remember from the last format, or Defiance to 5.5, or the I forgot what we called it. Homecoming. There you go. I think Homecoming. I think they call it the format like of what that campaign was. So that's why I'm going to go ahead and call this the Trials of Grodov draft format instead of 6.5 or whatnot. But it changed a significant amount. So we'll see. We'll see what has changed here. A couple of big notes that people have already been talking about, which was pretty obvious as soon as I went ahead and started with multicolor, which is what we're going to start with. And the couple of key points that I'll go over is that strangers, banners, cargo, and tokens are all back. That's right. A ton of fixing was added to the curated packs. So from 5 to 5.5, we went from tri-faction to dual faction, and then it seems like from here we're going to go to from dual faction to tri-faction. That being said, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to. I mean, the more advanced drafters probably will, and some of the more ambitious people that can't kind of solidify something. But once again, like I said, we're still keeping 2 packs of Dark Frontier. So those synergies, those dual color synergies are still going to be there. I think this is, it's too early to find out, and I'll get back to you guys on my initial or first impressions on whether you want to be drafting 3 colors the whole time, or if you simply want to have a more convenient splash of a third. Over this review, I won't be looking at the rares or legendaries, just for time purposes and the fact that we may not be seeing them as often, and sometimes, rares are just going to be bombs. So we're going to just be focusing on the commons and uncommons that changed. So once again, like I said, super ton of fixing. The displays are a huge payoff for going tri-faction. For those of you that remember, displays are 3 costs. There's the cycle of them. So there's 1 in every tri-faction. Well, I should say, yeah, I believe there should be only 5. I got to do the math. I don't remember. Let me know in the comments below if there should be 10 factions or not. I think there's tri-factions. I'm pretty sure there's only 3 because of the fact that there's 3 color mixes. But I digress. I just called myself out there. I should know that answer, but whatever. Anywho, I like to think out loud when I do these podcasts so you guys know exactly where I'm at. So anywho, the displays are all fast spells. They are 3 power and 1 influence of each of the factions. So for example, Display of Honor is the Ixtan one. So that is Fire, Justice, Primal. And these, actually, give me 1 second, guys. I'm going to increase the zoom on this a little bit because that might look a little bit better. I just want to make sure it looks good for the YouTube channel. So I do apologize there. That looks a little bit better. All right. So each one will have 3 modes, and you can select from one of the 3 modes. So going back to Display of Honor, for example, Display of Honor, give one of your units +4/+4 in lifesteal this turn, or draw 2 weapons from your void, or transform an enemy unit into a 2/1 goat. So the displays are huge payoffs for going 3 factions, and they are extremely versatile. And because of that, they pretty much, like, you just want to windmill slam them when you already are in those colors, because they will be value in some form or fashion. Even the least powerful one of all of them, which I believe was Display of Vision, yes, even that one had some pretty good play with the deck that required its synergy. So just keep that in mind. They are a very solid payoff, and it's a great addition. So it is a good incentive to go tri-faction. And they are uncommon, so you won't be seeing too many of them. So when you do see them, granted, because of the fact they are tri-faction, means that if you're not in those colors, you're going to pass them. So you could potentially see them a little bit later than you were anticipating. Tokens are depleted power at common that once again has all 3 factions. You can pick 1 though. It's not like the banners where you get both influences. You only pick 1, but they are at common. So once again, seeing plenty of fixing going on. The cargoes are kind of like seek powers that are specific to the tri-factions again, Ixtan, Winchest, etc., etc. But if you have double influence of each of the colors, so for example, for Winchest, if you have double Fire, double Shadow, and double Justice, by the time you go to play your cargo, it becomes a contraband, and it ends up letting you pick a random card out of 3 of one of each faction. So you play the contraband, and for example, if we use Winchest again, you'll get a Shadow card, a Fire card, and a Justice card that you can randomly pick and put into your hand. So not bad. They are pretty decent. Not really sure how we're gonna be playing them. Granted, I will say this, a little bit of a spoiler, the Spells Matters decks are still a thing in this archetype. So taking the cargoes might be beneficial. They fix your power early, and then they are able to replace, become a spell later on that could be a thing. Warren Shield is still in the format. We did get added as well Veteran Strategist, which is the 0/4 soldier that you can pay to gain a life and gain an influence. So another version, like I said, they put all the fixing back in here. So really, you shouldn't have too much trouble trying to get your tri-faction going on. Just depends on how much you want to contribute and how high you value them. But all right, guys, that's going to do it for the tri-faction stuff and the neutral color stuff. We are going to go ahead and discuss the dual faction, because for most of you that have been drafting before, realize that these are typically where you see some, especially the uncommons, can kind of identify what what that color faction or color pairing wants to be doing. So we're gonna go ahead and cover those first. Let me go ahead and just go in reverse order. Instead of scrolling down, we will scroll up, since apparently the multicolor was the last thing. So starting with Xenon, which is Time Shadow, and this is gonna be awkward. Once again, all the strangers and the banners are in, so I'm not gonna discuss that for every faction. That's not a big deal. I'm even gonna skip over a couple of uncommons and commons that I don't think are really relevant. Xenon is actually kind of lackluster, to be completely honest with you, when it comes to that. The one thing I will say, like two things I guess I will mention. We have Sadistic Ritualist is back. This is the 1/4 for Cultist for 3-time Shadow. It has Pledge, which is nice. For those of you that don't know real quick, Pledge, if you have a Pledge card in your opening hand, you are able to play that card as a power for your first turn and first turn only. Instead of it being a unit. So you're essentially adding, so for example, let's say you have Sadistic Ritualist and 1 power, you could potentially, or 1 sigil, you could potentially keep it and then just play your Sadistic Ritualist as your power on turn 1. After that though, it stays as the unit that it is. Right now we only have Pledge on units. That could change in the future, but as of right now, it's once again on units. If you have a dual color or faction unit, much like Ritualist here, then you are able to pick one of the 2 factions. So it would play as either a Time Sigil or a Shadow Sigil. So the reason why I bring up Ritualist, the 1/4 for 3, honestly, we can do better. We have things like Watchful Monera in the format and stuff like that. But pay 2 and exhaust Sadistic Ritualist and sacrifice another unit to draw a card. The one thing I am seeing, especially in Shadow, that we'll talk about later, is that it does have some void synergies going on. It wants things to die, it wants things to go to the void, and so this guy can essentially send something to your void while also replacing the card, especially if you have some kind of token generator, much like the double explorers and things like that, to kind of get more than a card's worth of value off of it. And then the other uncommon is Blistering Wasp. This card it's deceptively good because it's not that exciting. It is a 1/3 vermin. I didn't realize it was a vermin. I wonder why it's not an insect. That's interesting. Anywho, a 1/3 wasp for 2-time Shadow, flying and deadly. Yeah, this card does a really great job of gumming up the board. Just the fact that it has flying, so it could block the smaller flyers, and that it has 3 health means that it can easily trade for quite a few things without dying itself, and so it requires your opponent to answer it or just sacrifice a decent unit, like for example the elemental that we talked about, Frost Elemental. But that's pretty much it for Xenon. Nothing that exciting, so let's go ahead and move on. I don't want to spend too much time on things we don't have to, so this is not a super long podcast. As far as next up, we have Skycrag. Mighty Strikes is back. Oh yeah, plenty of us have been drafting for a minute. Remember how many games we've lost or won to this card. This card is a complete and utter blowout in most scenarios. Mighty Strikes is a fast spell for 3 fire primal. Give a unit +2/+2 and overwhelm this turn. It has Amplify 3, which means when you play it, you can play an additional 3 however many times you'd like, and it does an additional. Most cases, it just copies the spell again. So for Mighty Strikes, it gives a unit +2/+2 and overwhelm again. So the cool thing about this is it just says give a unit. So you can either A, give it to the same unit, or B, give it to a different unit. And that's why this card is such a blowout. If your opponent's low on life, you attack with everything. If they end up blocking, like let's say you have, for example, a 4/4 with nothing on it, and they block with a 1/1, they chump block, you can double pump, give a +4/+4 and overwhelm to that guy and get him for 7 and kill your opponent. Or vice versa, wins combat. You can pay 6, you can pay 9, give a +2/+2 to 2 or 3 of your units, and then they win combat. So yeah, Mighty Strikes is amazing. And already in aggressive colors, Primal has slowly come back up on playability. I feel popularity based on the Farming Eternal 7-win deck lists and numbers. So yep, shout out to the guys at Farming Eternal, Patumaro, Barefoot Farmer, and Ben Gracier. Those guys are awesome. If you guys aren't following the podcast, definitely do it. They are a limited focus podcast as well. Great guys. And Next up, let's see what we have. Scrolling up, we have Iceberg Shiny Finder. This card's just great. I don't think you're not like, wham, windmill slam, we got there, boys. But I think it's a really great card and actually has pretty good value. It is the 3/3 for 3 Skycrag once again, 1 fire, 1 primal. It has Pledge, which is great, fixes your power. And then it has Amplify 2. So for 5 or for 7, deal 1 damage to an enemy unit. And yeah, I think playing this guy for 5 and pinging something most of the time will kill something relevant. It also kills the Paladin, you know, the 2/1 that has invulnerability on their turn. So yeah, this card is pretty good. Late game, you can ping 2-3 damage sometimes, and it becomes quite relevant. So I like Shiny Finder. I think it's solid. Once again, not a windmill slam, but... And then Hunter's Harpoon. This is the +1/+1 weapon for 4 fire primal. It gives the unit quick draw. And when the wielder hits the enemy player, draw a card. Yeah, this card can run away with the game, especially if you have a decent sized flyer. This combos really well with, for example, the Storm Sprite, right? Because you can twist, give it more attack. This lets you get an additional twist into loot, and then it just gets so much attack that, or you know, that literally could just keep bashing in there. So yeah, Hunter's Harpoon is a good addition. Be on the lookout for that. You might lose to that. That card can definitely steamroll or run away, snowball away with the game. Going into Argentport, guys, we have Streetwise Informant, and I actually think this is a very interesting addition to the format. Reason being is Argentport has the Armor Matters synergies or archetype, right? And so this guy is a 1/4 Minotaur Rogue for 4 green purple or shadow. It has endurance, it has unblockable, great stats. Like, you can just get in there and it stays on defense, but then you can pay 5 to gain 2 armor. So this is really great because you can decide when to, I mean, don't get me wrong, 5 is a lot, but it does allow you to prep for a weapon next turn or add to a weapon you used, you know what I'm saying? It also allows you to turn on your blade bearers and things like that. So it is quite relevant, I think. And, you know, if you pick up a Horn Grinder, I believe Horn Grinder is still actually in the format. I got to double check. It's actually in this pack, so we'll find out. But if it is, I mean, that just gives a +2/+2 Horn Grinder every turn. So yeah, I think Streetwise Informant is going to be a pretty good pickup if you are in the Armors Matters deck. There's Sanguine Sword. Once again, I'm not going to get too much into this one, but it does give you a bit of a payoff for sacrificing units in Shadow, like we talked about earlier. It becomes a 4/4 for 4, which is just fine. Obviously, you want to sacrifice something that is worth the value you're getting something back. But here's another really good payoff for those of you that remember 5.5. We have Resilient Wagoneer. This is the 1/1 Gunslinger. Add uncommon for 3 green shadow as pledge, so it fixes your power, and then empower, so i.e. whenever you play a power sigil or a power, it gets a +2/+2 this turn for each of your other units. Yeah, don't get me wrong, there's plenty of times where this card is not that great, but there have been plenty of times where this card just ends up being like an 11/11, a 13/13, and you just get to bash turn after turn after turn with this guy. So I don't know where it's going to sit in the format just yet. I just wanted to call attention to it because, yeah, it's quite powerful and can definitely do some work. There's no doubt about it. So interesting that so far we've seen, it looks like they're adding kind of the graveyard synergies to Shadow colors. Streetwise Informant obviously is going to play into a occurring theme, and then Wagoneer is just kind of, I guess, the go wide strategy, which we will see as well in Shadow. If I can kind of segue into that, or kind of foreshadow into that. And then of course Banner and Stranger. All right, that's Argentport, guys. Going into Elysian, so Time Primal, we have Tunneling Gargantua. This card, man, I honestly don't think this card is a very crazy addition. It's decent. The things that make it kind of undesirable is the fact that it's a 5/5 for 8, which that's highly overcasted on those stats. It does have Killer and Pledge, so it has a little bit of insurance if you have it in your opening hand, but only in your opening hand. If you draw it turn 2, you're stuck with it. But it does get plus attack and health based on the cost of your highest cost relic. But we haven't really seen too many relic synergies in this format, so not really sure if they're adding a bunch or not. But I don't think this is going to be a really big player. I think it's just going to be one of those kind of like skill tests for newer drafters. But this card, though, I do think is good, is Nesting Avasaur. This is a 3/3 dinosaur for 4-time primal, as flying, and summon. You may put a card from your hand on top of your deck. Its cost is reduced by 2. Honestly, a lot of times you're just going to play this as a 3/3 flyer for 4. And I actually like it. I know it is competing with things like Storm Sprite and I wanted to say Test Pilot, but that's Justice. But occasionally you will get some value of putting like an Echo. Actually, I'm not even sure if there's Echo cards on the top of your deck. We'll have to find out. But you can put fake cards up there, things like that, and get some value is really where you want to capitalize on the summon effect. But just having a 3/3 flyer for 4 is perfectly fine, especially if you lead on turn 3 with the Frost Elemental. So you end up getting 6/6 worth of power or stats on the board flying by turn 4. That seems awesome. So yeah, I like Nesting Avasaur. I don't think it's going to be completely busted, but I do think it's good. Let's see, moving right along, and our last modification to the format in Elysian is Amaran Camel, which is a 0/3/3 for 3 cost beast for time primal. When you draw a card, gain 1 life. Yeah, I'm not really excited about this card. I don't think you want to be lollygagging around this format. It was pretty aggressive before, and I really don't see anything that would cause it to slow down. So I don't think this is another crazy addition. So Elysian kind of took a bit of a hit here. Next up, we have Rakano. So Fire Time. One of the big additions is Sword of Akaria. This is a +3/+2 relic weapon for 3 Fire Justice, and it has Warcry. This card's great. It gives you, it'll trade up most of the time, or at least equal. You know what I mean? It kills pretty much every flyer. Most of the time, you're only going to get 1 hit in. If you're able to somehow get 2, that is great. The fact that it has Warcry means you are going to get like double the value, i.e. you're going to kill one of their units as well as pump up one of yours. And like I said, if you're able to get even 2 attacks in with that, you're doing really good, because then you're paying 3 for essentially 5/4 worth of stats, which is a great deal. So Sword of Akaria is great. It's going to be a solid pickup, I think, especially in the aggressive Rakano decks, because I don't think that's going to change. And then we have Deadeye, which meh, whatever. But here's another good one, Bear Arms. That's right, one of my favorite names and cards in the format, just because it's literally bear, like the dude's wearing a bear suit and he's like gonna punch somebody with his bare arms. It's awesome. But it is a +1/+1 weapon for 2 Fire Justice, and when you play a unit, Bear Arms gets +1/+1. So of note, if there is some way to reoccur said weapon, it does keep its bonus. So if you trigger it twice and it gets a +3/+3, and somehow they kill the unit, it goes to the void, you get Bear Arms back. It will still identify the 2 spells or the 2 units you played, and so it comes back as a +3/+3. Yeah, Bear Arms can win some serious games. It definitely combos off with Twist, because of the fact that you can twist, play a unit, twist again, play a unit, twist again. Like, it's pretty awesome, pretty saucy. I like it. I think it's going to do pretty well in this format, especially in Rakano, since you're able to play a lot of 2 cost units, 3 cost units. You can shift things. There's warp. I think you're able to be quite aggressive with Bear Arms, and it's going to do some work for you. And man, I mean, obviously it doesn't combo, it doesn't synergy with shift because you can't target the unit, but still, I think Bear Arms is going to be quite a good player, and you're going to lose to it sometimes, especially if they slap it on a very resilient flyer. Going into Stone Scar, we have, let's see, Banner, Stranger, Revolver. Okay, Runic Revolver is +2/+2 relic weapon for 5 Fire Primal, but it has quick draw, and when you summon it, deals 2 damage to the enemy player. So I think essentially this is, I'm really not excited about this card because of the fact that it costs 5. Like, I understand why it costs 5, but I do still think you're not getting enough stats for it. So best case scenario, what you're looking for is just your opponent is a very aggressive low to the ground deck, which is still a little awkward because that means you still have to block if they're going wide, but it's a +2/+2 weapon, but the fact that it has quick draw means anything that it can kill, i.e. anything with 1 or 2 health, it will not have the chance to attack back. So you can easily get a 2-for-1 or a 3-for-1 out of this card based on the board state. That being said, I think you still have to be cognizant of things like combat tricks and stuff like that. And I mean, it's still just 2. Like, it can get outclassed on the field very easily. You know, we see a lot of 3/3s for 3, and you have a couple of 2/3s and 3/4s and 2/4s. So there is a chance that you play this and just nothing happens. The summon effect of dealing 2 damage to enemy player, that does kind of help deal with opposing relic weapons, but it has to go to the face. So meh, kind of medium overall, but is of worth noting because, like I said, against aggressive decks, it could do some serious work. We have Combust. This is sacrifice a unit to kill an enemy unit at regular speed, slow speed, whatever, for 1 fire justice. So here is another sack your own units kind of payoff. Granite drone is in the format, so you spend a card and a half essentially, because Combust does cost you a card, and then half of a grenadine drone to kill any unit, period. So there is some benefit to that. If you sacrifice a unit that has an entomb effect or something like that, you're able to kind of get some synergies going. And so yeah, Combust is definitely something to look for and keep an eye out. It's fairly easy to splash anything in this format, it seems like. So I think it's gonna be a good way to pick up at least 1 just solid piece of removal to indefinitely get rid of any troublesome units. Let's see. Clan Hunt Caller is back. It is a 4/3 Warcry Warrior for 4 Fire Primal or Fire Shadow, and then summon your other units get Warcry this turn, which it pays you off for going wide, which it looks like when we get to Shadow, that is going to be a strategy here. And that is going to do it for Stone Scar. Next up, we have Feln, so Primal Shadow, and we have Trickster Cloak. For 3 blue purple, we have a +2/+2 weapon. Summon, the wielder gets unblockable this turn. Okay, all right, it's fine. Nothing too exciting. We'll move on. We did get Hunting Scream back though. Hunting Scream is pretty interesting, considering that it would synergize with twist cards. You know, and I mean, they die like at 1 health or something like that. Not necessarily that you twisted them to death and you get it back, because they'll still die as soon as they come back into play. But it does combo off with summon effects. But also, once again, like I said, let's say, for example, what's a 4 cost? Let's just say Test Pilot. I mean, it kind of stinks because it already has flying. But yeah, you get Test Pilot. Or Deadshot. There you go. Deadshot's a good one. So you twist Deadshot once. So it becomes a 3/1 with lifesteal. It stuns something, it dies, etc., etc. Later on in the game, you can Haunted Scream it back. So it's a 3/1 lifesteal flying charge. You can get in there, right? You can hit your opponent with it, gain some life, and then you can twist it. It's going to die anyways, so you can twist it to give it, kill it on its own and then stun something. So there's some value. I mean, granted, that is Trifaction. Probably Scribe or Storm Sprite will probably be the best card. You know what I mean? Make it a 4/1, get in there, your opponent kills it, you Haunting Scream it back, you get in for an additional 4 that they weren't anticipating. So yeah, there's some definite synergy there with Haunted Scream. Let's see. Oh, it actually works with Umbran Voidbringer. The flying 2/2 Berserk that gets you a unit back if you trigger Onslaught. Ooh, that's a good little synergy right there. Because the unit that goes back in your hand is permanent. Yeah, I like that. There you go. Haunted Scream. Boom. Made it. We broke it. Took me a second, but we got there, guys. Moving right along, we have Huru, which is Justice Primal. And we have Shield Bash. What? This card is awesome. For 4 Justice Primal, you get a slow spell that stuns an enemy unit, you gain 2 armor, and you draw a card. So it replaces itself, it tempos out your opponent, and you get armor, which increases your life, helps against aggressive decks, and also has additional synergy in Justice. Yeah, this card is great. I think it's going to work really well. Going to do some serious play, I think. Let's see. Moving right along, Stranger, Banner. All right, we have Duelist Blade. So this is something to look out for just because it has additional everyone's already used to seeing like 2 and 3 damage weapons. This one is a 4+4+4 relic weapon for 5. But once again, it could throw off your math when you think your 4 health units are safe and then they drop the blade. It does survive having 4 health against most flying units. And then summon, you gain Aegis. I don't really think it's relevant in this format. We haven't really seen too many things that are playable. There are some cards that target your opponent's hand and stuff like that, and they could, go face, I guess, with damage. But Flame Strike, as we'll talk about later, well, I'll just say it now, is no longer in the format. So you don't have to worry about the red player, sending like 8 damage to your face. So it's more about just being a 4/4. We have Deepwood Ranger, which is a 4/4 unseen for 5 Justice Primal. Summon Deepwood Ranger, gets a +2/+2 for each of your units with 2 or more battle skills. Yeah, I don't see this guy getting. I think in most cases, your best scenario, it's going to be a 6/6 in best case scenario. I could be wrong, but I just looking back, I don't see too many units having 2 keywords. That's the trick there. There's plenty of units in the format with 1 keyword, but giving them 2 is going to be kind of tough. What comes to mind is maybe stuff, but then you'll be Trifaction, which could be a thing, but having, like, for example, Infinite Hourglass, where all your guys additionally get Endurance. And so things like Behemoth, or your familiar that has flying will get Endurance, so they have 2 battle skills that way, and the Behemoth has Overwhelm and Endurance. But maybe, it could be, once again, like I said earlier, there's a ton of fixing, so you're gonna see a lot more Trifaction decks in this format. All right, we have Combre, Time Justice, and here we have safe return. Put one of your units into your hand and give it a +1/+1. All right, so it just saves the thing, eats up a removal spell. Hopefully, we have Combre Healer is a good one. I like this. This is another way that synergizes with twist mechanics, which are both in Time and Justice. So this is a solid card. It is a 2/2 cleric for 3 Time Justice. Summon you and a unit each get +3 health. Yeah, this card is great. I think it's awesome in this format with twist, because not only are you making a unit, have able to twist 3 additional times, or making a big blocker if you need to, but it also gains you the health. So, and it just does it automatically. You don't have to trigger onslaught or anything like that. Yeah, I think Combre Healer is going to be quite a good player in this format. And lastly, we have Desert Marshal. I like Desert Marshal. I think it's great because it's a 2/2 gunslinger for 2 Combre, but it has ambush, so it can eat a smaller unit, or maybe a 3/2 or something like that. It's really good against fire. But then summon, you may silence another unit. Anytime you can silence, I don't like typically cards that just silence, but whenever you can tack on silence to another unit as a bonus, I feel like it's very strong. And a lot of times this can essentially be a 2-for-1 in the fact that they attack with something, you play Desert Marshal, you block that and kill it, and you silence another relevant unit, taking away its twist ability or its flying or something like that. I think Desert Marshal is definitely, and it's so cheap, it's easy to leave up. So I think it's going to do some serious work in this format, especially with, like I said, so many utility units that are quite powerful on their own. And finally, our last faction pair is Praxis. This is Fire Time. And here we are looking at Journeyman Armor. So I kind of like this card, and it's mainly because of the fact that it has Warp. It is a 2/2 Oni for 3 Praxis. Warp. So obviously we see those synergies already in the Praxis Warp deck. And Summon, play a +1/+1 weapon on another one of your units. So once again, it works with twist. It's aggressive because you're putting 3/3 worth of stats for 3 on the board. One of it gets haste or charge. I'm sorry. So I think this card is quite good, and it definitely helps with like off the top synergies with warp and things like that. And once again, you can slap this on a fire or a twist unit and get in there. It goes good with conscripts to make them a 4/5 where they can continue to beat down. So yeah, I like Journeyman Armor. I think it's quite solid. And it does combo well with one of our other uncommons that we'll talk about later. We have Brilliant Discovery, which I don't really think is a thing other than the fact that it has warp, so it can kind of help ramp you to your behemoths and stuff like that. And then Alluring Ember, once again, it's just okay. We'll move on. All right, guys, that is going to do it for our dual faction cards. Overall, I don't see anything other than the graveyard or the void synergies and a little bit of going wide that really makes me feel like the format is going to change. I think mainly right now it's just going to be the addition of being able to go tri-faction in your decks versus the standard dual faction decks. So let's get crack-a-lacking into our single faction cards, and we'll find out if we see any other additions to things here. Going into Shadow, we have let's see, Umbran Death Watcher is still in the format, but I did want to mention it because you're going to see all like opposite payoffs for void stuff. The Umbran Death Watcher is the 1/1 Radiant at uncommon for 3 Shadow, and a +1/+1 for each unit in your void. So this definitely benefits from cards that give you additional cards from one, i.e. drone once again, and things like that. Umbral Edge is in there. I have never really been high on this card, but I know some other drafters really liked it. It's a 2/2 relic weapon for 4 Shadow. In power, give it a +1/+1. So let's see. Trusty Revolver. Sportfolk, discard the top 5 cards of your deck. So it's a way of feeding your void as well as giving you a chump blocker to eat up some attacks and then put it in the void as well. So there's once again some more void synergies. We have Spore Breath. Give an enemy unit -1/-1 for each unit in your void. Bam. Another void payoff. So that's clearly going to be a archetype for this. We're seeing a heavy support for it so far in the common and uncommon level on just Shadow. So I mean, it's a thing. I don't remember there being too much of that in the Dark Frontier packs, but that doesn't mean things can't change. And then obviously, as we mentioned before, we have the Voidbringer that gets a unit back. So, you know, you're not necessarily punished for throwing a bunch of stuff into your void. Spike Feeder, the player of your 1/1 Flying Wisp for 1. The summon, the player of your choice discards the top 2 cards of their deck. So more feed the void. And then here we go. Here's the other payoff that I was talking about, where it's Soul Collector. This is a 1/1 Cultist at uncommon for 4 Shadow. When another unit dies, Soul Collector gets a +1/+1. So you have the Militiaman that gets a +1/+1 when something dies, and then you have Soul Collector now. So you have 2 units to do that, as well as the guy that we just talked about. Let me see. I can't believe I forgot his name already. Nope, not the Reaper. Or was it? Death Watcher that gets bigger from stuff going to your void. So you have multiple things that can benefit from going to the void. The only thing is both Militiaman and Soul Collector have to see the units dying, so you don't get retro pay or something. What's the word? Retrospective benefits, something like that. Sorry, I know the word, it's just not coming to my mind. They have to see it versus the Death Watcher, like it, whenever it comes to play, it just checks the void and that's what sets it. And then of course Entomb, you gain health equal to Soul Collector's health. So pretty good card. I've seen that card win plenty of games, especially if you can start triggering on your own. Let's see. Sewer Sludge, Scheme, Scavenge. Okay, here we go. Here's another more than 1 unit for 1 card, which Scavenge is a play 3 1/1 rat that can't block. You gain either Fire or Justice Influence for 3 in a Shadow. It's a slow spell. So that's a good way to give yourself cannon fodder to essentially sack or to pitch to something or to just send in for combat, to send them to the void and then pump up the rest of your units. So we're seeing that. Scare's back, Sadistic Glee's back, or still here, I'm sorry. There's Ravenous Thornbeast. This guy is great. I really like this guy. I think he's going to see some good play here again. This is the 3/3 Ravenous Beast for 3 in a Shadow. Summon, you may sacrifice another unit to give Ravenous Thornbeast a +2/+2. So send something to the void, which we kind of want to do, and you get a 5/5 for 3. Yeah, card's great. I like it. I like it quite a bit. Quite versatile. Easily upgrade things in the late game. We have Oblivabot. Yeah, whatever. I feel like that's just a skill checker. Some people talked about it, but I was never big on it. Life Drinker is still in the format. Let's see. Here we go. Here's another one that definitely makes you want to like pitch or sacrifice smaller units and go wide. This is Lothrai Intimidator. This card is awesome all the way around. It is a 2/4 Elf Rogue for 4 and a Shadow. So yeah, great, fine stats. Perfectly fine. Attacks okay, blocks well, but it has Pledge and then Empower. So whenever you play a power, your units get +1 attack this turn. Yeah, this card's great. It definitely rewards you for going wide. and it forces your opponent to make blocks they may or may not want to make because they just can only take so much damage. So yeah, that's a really good payoff for Cincy probably being a Stone Scar go wide deck, I would think. It might work with Argenport as well, but yeah, I think it's solid. Let's see. Let's try Blade Whirl. I think it's okay, especially with the Overwhelm or Emerge. If you play this the turn that something gets emerges, you're able to get him for additional damage. It is a 5/2 elf for 5 and a shadow, and summon, give one of your other units +3 attack while you have Lithrai Blade World. My only problem is that it's 2 health in a format with Char and that 2/2 quick draw weapon we just saw, and Streets of Flame. Yeah, I just feel like it's super vulnerable. I mean, granted, you're not getting blown out, but whatever. Jack's Knife. I do like this card. This is a really solid twist enabler. +2/+2 weapon for 1 in shadow. Summon, the wielder deals 2 damage to you. I think the 2 damage is pretty inconsequential, honestly. Like in shadow, you have to anticipate, but there's plenty of life still to go around. And the fact that you're able to get in, it only costs 1 to give a +2/+2 permanently to a unit. I think that's quite beneficial, especially if you have twist or flying mechanics. So, or if you're in Stone Scar, you can put it on a Berserk unit. Yeah, Jack's Knife is great. I like it. Improvised Club, whatever. Heirloom Seeker, whatever. Headman's Axe, 5 shadow weapon, +0/+0, odd. Why? What else? +1/+1 for each unit in your void. Yep, we've seen that text before. So yeah, clear as day. Shadow wants void stuff going on. Let's see. Grenadin Bellower. I like this one because of one of the other cards we're going to talk about in a moment. This has already been in the format. It's the 2/1 Grenadin for 2, and then when it entombs, all your other units get +1/+1 permanently, or +1/+0, sorry, permanently. So that works really well with the wider your board is. And sometimes, you know, your opponent just keeps taking 2 because of that. But let's skip ahead a little bit. We have Devour now. So Devour is back, which is nice. I think it helps mitigate removal spells as well as giving you the ability to sacrifice your own units at your rate. So it is a fast spell for 2 and a shadow. Sacrifice a unit to draw 2 cards and gain 2 health. So you aren't going up on cards here unless obviously you get that benefit of like sacking a rat from Scavenge or a drone or Grenadin from Grenadin drone, because you are spending Devour as a card, and then obviously the unit you're sacking is a card to draw 2. But once again, if you do it with Bellower, you can essentially time it to where like, all right, I have a really strong board, I can sack my Bellower now, get the benefit to all my guys, plus draw some cards, or it negates a removal spell. If they're going to kill your unit with a Retribution or something, in response you can Devour it. So yeah, I like it. Dark Wisp. This is the 1/1 Wisp for 2 and a shadow, and then when entomb, you draw a card. So it gives you a sack outlet or a sack enabler, as well as replacing itself. Dark Return is still in the format, so we're able to get back something should we pitch something to the graveyard or the void that we didn't want to. We have insurance to get it back somewhat. Brash, Shorthorn, aggressive. Breath Stealer, just a filler. Betray the Cause does combo off with Devour if you have 6 power. You steal and ready an enemy unit. You can attack with it if you want, and at the end of combat, you can Devour it to draw cards, and then you're up and you sack one of their units and all that crazy combo stuff. Now there's Banished Umbran. This is the 2/3 Radiant for 3 and a shadow. So 2/3 stats worked out just fine in the last format. I think it might do the same in this format. It's looking like. And once per turn, you may pay 5 to make a player discard the top 2 cards of their deck. So a way to self-mill yourself. A way to mill yourself to feed your void once again. Or in a more stalled board state, you're able to mill out your opponent as an additional or not additional win con, alternate win condition. Yeah, there you go. So that is Shadow, guys. Once again, just pretty predominant. They want void synergies going on, which is cool. I like it. I think it's solid. Primal. Let's see what we got going on in Primal. Is this going to be the set that helps bring Primal back on the map? We'll see. Tundra Explorers already been here. Trollblaze, yep. Torrential Downpour, I mean, that actually, now that we're seeing a lot of like go wide, and we're already seeing a couple things that makes a bunch of 1/1s, Torrential Downpour might be a player. Torrential Downpour, deal 1 damage to each enemy unit, so just theirs, so you don't have to worry about your side of the board. And it scouts, which has some additional synergy for 2 and a primal, and it's a slow spell. Tend the Flock, there's another token generator. You get 3 0/1 sheeps for the cost of 1 card and 2. Storm Talisman, this one I'm not very high on. I think 8. It's not the Frost Talisman. Storm Talisman is a relic for 2 and a primal. Summon, scout. Okay, that's fine. Once per turn, you may pay 8 to deal 2 damage to an enemy. Yeah, we're not doing it. Starved Vorlunk. This card is pretty good. It's a solid finisher in primal for sure. It is a 6/6 dinosaur for 7 primal. Has Overwhelm and then Amplify 2. It gets a +3/+3. Most of the time, this has to be a really stalled board state because after all, you're paying 9 for this guy, but it is a 9/9 Overwhelm, which is quite relevant, especially in a format where we could give it flying and potentially berserk. Yeah, so I think this is good. I mean, you're not going to pick it highly, but if you see it late, sure, take it. Why not? It might make the deck. Once again, don't think it's going to break the primal format or anything like that. Darn it. There we go. Shamanic Blast. Yeah. No, we're so Shamanic Blast deal or cost 1 less for each spell in your void. So if we're Felon and we're feeding our void, deal 3 damage to an enemy unit, and it's 6 primal. Yeah, nope. Not a thing. Savage Denial, negate an enemy fast spell. Alright, that's fine. I could see some stuff. Resurface, move a spell of your choice to the top of your deck. Meh. Reinforced Tower Shield. Not looking good for primal, guys. Oh boy. North Wind Herald. 3/2 Flying Elemental for 6 primal. Free if you have played 2 spells this turn. Yeah, like, there's just way better things to be doing. Man, this is not looking good for primal. Mass Entomancy is back, which is their pseudo removal spell, but this is not polymorph. Like, giving them a 1/1 flyer for 4 can be quite relevant versus a 1/1 on the ground. So yeah, Entomancy, you're not going to be playing this unless you absolutely need some form of pseudo removal. Man, this is not looking good for primal. Lathari's Secret Weaver, so +3/+3 Elf Explorer for 3 primal. Pay 4, discard a spell to draw 2 cards. I think I've activated this thing for that value a total of like 3 times the entire time I've drafted it. Most of the time I just use it as a 3/3 for 3 because, I mean, let's just face it, guys. In most cases, you're only going to have somewhere between 4 to 6 spells in your deck, and you already made cuts to get down there. So those are the spells that are relevant. So very rarely would you ever pitch them. Lens of Clarity, yeah, just unplayable. Jump Kick, okay. We talked about ways of temporary giving something flying. So a fast spell, give a unit +1/+1 and flying this turn for 1. So it's a good way to essentially ambush your opponent's flyers. They attack in when you don't have flyers or not a big enough flyer. You can give one of your ground units flying and block and kill their guy, which I still think is funny that's in primal because you're going to have your own flyers, but say levy, whatever. And then of course you can slap it on a big unit, especially if you're like Legion, throw it on a behemoth and get in there for additional damage. So that there is some benefit to that. There's Jiral's Frostkin, 3/3 giant for 4 and a primal. Summon, stun an enemy unit. This card's fine. And once again, nothing. The good news about this though is that if you're able to get a couple of early flyers on the board, and let's say for example a Storm Sprite, you twist it and then they play like some rinky-dink flyer like a Flickerling, you're able to stun that flyer for 2 turns to get in there thanks to this guy and still have a blocker on the ground. So there is some relevance there. Icicle Marksman, this is the 1/3 Yeti. When you play a spell, you deal 1 damage to enemy player for 4 and a primal. So it looks like they're pushing the spells matters in primal, which honestly I can't remember if it was a thing in the last format or not, to be completely honest with you. I'm drawing a blank now. I know spells matter. Oh yeah, because it was Huru. Spells matter was Huru, I believe. So yeah, okay. So we're just kind of re-pushing that. I guess they didn't see enough action of that in the Dark Frontier format, so they're trying to push it for this one. Here's another Spells Matters Gale Prowler. It is a 3/1 elemental cat for 4. When you play a spell, Gale Prowler gets a +1/+1 in flying. Meh. I've never liked this card. I think I've drafted 2 of them. It was because I was shy on playables, and I probably still ended up cutting it or making it market fodder. One thing that crossed my mind, guys, let me know in the comments below if you feel like I shouldn't on the update, the draft format updates, you know, like these in-betweens, if I shouldn't describe each card. I know a lot of you have been drafting already, you know what these cards do, but some of you might be new to the game and I haven't seen these cards before, so that's why I'm doing it, but it does take up a little bit of time. So let me know in the comments below, or heck, come into the stream every Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday and let me know what you guys think. I really do appreciate your feedback, both good and bad. I like increasing it. But here we go. Finally, we get a card that you can be excited about. We have Frost Wave. This is a fast spell for 1 and a primal. Stun an enemy unit. All right, kind of medium, right? But it has Amplify 3. That's right. So for 4 and then 7 and then 10, you can stun an additional enemy unit. Yeah, this card just wins games. It wins games on defense. It wins games on offense. You can take a turn off. Your opponent goes to attack. You stun 3 of their units. And then all of a sudden, they didn't get the damage than they thought. And they don't have blockers for you to get in there and just take down the game. Or you just stun all the units that they thought they were going to leave back on blocks, and then you get in there for a ton of damage. And of course, it's in primal, so you have flyers as well. Yeah, Frostwave is great. It's a phenomenal finisher. I think you only want 1 in your deck. I have played 2 sometimes, but when you have 2, I guess you're kind of a little more willing to like throw 1 away, essentially like early for tempo. But 1 for sure. This card is great. I think it's even stronger than Cloud of Ash. Let's see. Freewind Glider, we already know. Here's another good one. I like this. This goes really well with Twist. First Frost Shaman. This is a 2/5 Shaman for 5 and a primal, and it's a common, so you'll see a lot of them. So it's a good blocker on the ground if you can play like your 3 and 4 flyers. Give one of your just summon, no onslaught. Give one of your other units +3 health while you have First Frost Shaman. Bam. Give your flyers additional health so they can keep bashing in through their smaller flyers, or just give one of your targets additional twist. Yeah, I like First Frost Shaman. That's a funny thing. I wonder how many times people are going to be confused where, you know, back and forth between a summon effect and a onslaught effect. Like, I don't think it's going to happen that often, but I think every once in a while someone might be, because we're just so used to onslaught right now, that they'll see something and they'll just be like, okay, yeah, I have to attack first and then do it. Like, I would not be surprised if that happens a couple of times. We have Fearless Yeti. This is just a great card. I don't think it has a ton of synergy, but it is solid. 3/1 Yeti with Overwhelm for 2 and a primal. When Fearless Yeti hits the enemy player's scout. So obviously this goes with the Scout Matters deck, right? And it has synergies there. I think the fact that it is post-combat does play a role there though, and lowers its value a little bit, because half the time I feel like the scout benefits come before combat. You know, things like Peak Top Trekker, it will, you know, still get the benefit. It's a permanent +2/+2, but like I said, sometimes you just want to see it either in the middle of combat or pre-combat to get the benefits, but it's fine. I think it gets in there. Ooh, here's another good one. This card I like too. I actually put this in my Constructed Yetis deck when I built my super low to the ground. We're gonna win everything except like combo or something. It helped me climb the ladder. But Entangling Vines. This is a slow spell for 2 and a primal. It has warp, so there we go, warp synergies, and stun 2 enemy units. So a highly discounted Frost Wave. I think the warp is quite relevant, honestly, because you're never upset to warp this. Like, hey, you get 2 blockers out of the way for 2 turns. Like, that's quite relevant. Sometimes you get additional attacks. Sometimes you don't have to worry about chump blocking. So yeah, I like it. I think you're always happy to warp it. And cheap warp cards are always great because, you know, something like a 4 or 5 drop with warp, you may not always be able to cast, but a 2 drop, most case scenarios, unless you're Jedi and you see things on turn 1 and 2 on the top of your deck, you're going to be able to play Entangling Vines for some kind of benefit. Crystal Dirk, Court Mage is black. This is the 2/5. That's it. Just a vanilla 2/5 for 4 with pledge. So those are fine. All right. Oh, all right. Here we go. So we just had to see things in the top end. That's what it was. We were going in alphabetical order, and it's all in the high or low letters. So we have Courier Albatross. This is the 2/2 bird for 3 and a primal. It has flying, and then you can amplify 3. So for 6 and for 9, give it a +1/+1 and draw a card. Yeah, it's not bad. 3/3 flyer for 6, and then you draw a card. That seems good. And then obviously for 9 would be great too. Sometimes you do just play it on turn 3 because you need to add to the board. But once again, it gets some value from its flexibility. Yeah, Albatross doesn't have very much synergy. Actually, it doesn't have synergy at all. But standalone, it's great. Boom, guys. Here we go. We got one of our win cons. This thing is an mythic uncommon. Or I'm sorry, legendary uncommon. Sorry, different format or different game. Cliff Diver Mantisaur. That's right. For those of you that were in the last draft format, this thing is just busted. It is a 4/3 flying Aegis pledge dinosaur for 5 primal. Yeah, it's a big flyer for 5, which I think a 4/3 flyer on its own is already aggressively statted, but then it has Aegis. So your opponent typically has to either have enough power on the board flying to kill it, or they have to burn 2 cards on it. Yeah, this card is almost always a 2-for-1. If you're able to leave up a combat trick, oh god, this card is just a blowout. Yeah, Cliff Diver Mantisaur is awesome. Super excited to see that guy back. I say that, now watch how many times I lose to it. And then lastly, we have Bolt Crafter Shaman. 2/6 for 6 and a primal shaman. Your spells deal 2 additional, or your spells deal 2 + 2 damage. Yeah, no, not a thing. Didn't see play the first time. Don't think it's going to see play this time. So let's see what Justice has in the works for us. Let's see. So we have Valkyrie Militant still. That's still in the format. Fine. Valkyrie Linebreaker. 5/6 flying. Valkyrie for 8 Justice. Mentor, you gain armor equal to the student's health. So it plays around with the armor matters thing. And it is a big flyer, but it's for 8. Yeah, I'm off of it. I don't think it's really going to see it. Bodyguard is back. That's fine. Tower Shield. Tinker. Throne Warden. All right. Yeah, we saw Throne Warden before. Let's see. Stalwart Shield is back. This is a +1/+3 weapon with endurance for 4 and justice. Yeah, this card is great. Makes a fantastic blocker. Makes a great attacker as well. And it plays well into Twist. Yeah, I think this card is good. Oh man, can you imagine throwing this on a test pilot? Oh god. The beat. Spellsire Sword is back. Soaring Guard is still here. Silverwing Smith is still here. So we're very much still into the flyers and the Armor Matters deck. Rotor Smith. Let's see. Reinforced Baton. Okay, there's a little addition. So +2/+3 relic weapon for 3 justice. So something to look out for. Ooh, so is Mithril Mace gone? Let me check. Yeah, so this replaced Mithril Mace. So now we're not seeing the +3/+4 weapon for 5. Instead, we're seeing a 2/3 for 3. All right, so it comes down a little bit sooner, can eliminate fewer things. But we do have Rampart Arbalist, so that's still there. I guess they kind of played a similar role. Ooh, here we go. Here's a finisher for Justice that I like. New Order Watchwing. This is a 4/6 Valkyrie for 6 justice as flying and renown. So whenever you place something on it, it triggers renown. Renown, play a relic weapon with attack and armor equal to the cost of that spell or weapon. So baseline, if you play a daring maneuver on this guy to make him a 6/6 overwhelm, you'll get a 2/2 weapon. Yeah, I think that's great value. You're essentially automatically getting a 2-for-1. You know what I mean? I like it. In most cases, you can make it to where you can remove something. If you end up putting a bigger spell on it, it does count amplify. So for example, if you happen to Mighty Strikes it for 6, you'll get a 6/6 weapon. So yeah, this card is awesome. It is a little more expensive than Steel Legion, but you're getting a decent payoff in renown. So yeah, Minotaur Oathkeeper. The 1/1, when you attack with a single unit, it gets a +1/+1 this turn. Meh. Pretty medium. Ooh, Master at Arms. This is a 2/2. Soldier for 2 justice. Summon, give one of your other units +2/+2 while you have Master at Arms. So really aggressive card. It is a 2-drop that you're able to pump one of your other guys to get in there. This card is good. It's good early, it's good late. Obviously, typically, unless you have a 1-drop, you're not going to see it played on turn 2. But turn 3 or 4 helps get you in there with a ton of damage, especially if you have something like a conscript. It'll allow you to twist a couple more times, things like Test Pilot and Ooze. So yeah, I like Master Arms. I think that's a good addition to the more aggressive decks. Lingering Influence, not a thing. I guess, you know, once again, the Spell Matters deck, which I have not tried. Maybe it is more of a thing in this format. We have Kasul Recruit. This is the 3/3 for 3 Justice. Just plain old, but it does have Pledge. I like this card quite a bit. I think it incentivizes you to kind of be a little heavier on the 3s if it comes down to it, because you can always pledge one away and make sure your power is correct and clean for your curve. So I like it. We still have Kasul Battle Mage. Horn Grinder. Yep. So we were right. Horn Grinder is still in the format. So yeah, you can combo off with this thing and make it huge by just having a residual or not residual, but repeatable armor effects. Fur Hat is back. I like this one. It is a +1/+1 weapon for 3 in a Justice, but summon, draw Justice Sigil. So I like it. It pumps up your guys just enough, and it makes sure you hit your next power drop. So at least hits your 4, which is important. So I like it. I like it quite a bit. It is not fixing of note because it is Justice and gets good Justice, but it is a good card. I like it. I like it. Emerald Ring. So the rings are back. Not really crazy about them. I think they're fine. This one does pay 3 to give a +1/+1 weapon to one of your units, so it does enable as typical. So it looks like Justice is looking to be very aggressive and still kind of have the armor train and twist. I think it's fine. You can, I mean, if you have nothing to do with your power, you can +1/+1 a twisted unit and then twist it next turn or that same turn, depending on how expensive the twist is. Downfall and Detain are still in. Ooh, Copperhawk Cudgel. I like this actually. Copperhawk Cudgel kind of works with the sacrifice effect as well as twisting. It is a +2/+2 weapon, so a lot of weapons in Justice. A lot of weapons. Definitely want to be pumping things up. This is the +2/+2 weapon for 3 in a Justice, and when the wielder dies, play a 2/2 Minotaur. So it gives you a little bit of an insurance policy on, you know, if you play it on a good unit, you can get in there and bash. If they happen to kill the unit, then you still get a little bit of, you know, free card for your warriors. It's not completely replacing it, but it does give you something. I can see this being really overpowered on the conscripts because it'll make the conscripts a 5/6, and then eventually when they double or triple block or just drop like a tremor shocker or something to block it and it has to die, you at least get a 2/2 out of it. So I like it. I think Copperhawk Cudgel is going to do some work. Ceremonial Mask is already here. Broken Wing Brawler, a medium on that card. Really, I know some people are higher on it. I'm not. I think just a 3/3 for 5 is just expensive. You know, I have lost to it sometimes if they keep playing power, but I don't know. It's one of the last cards I do play in my deck. Ooh, this is a great trick. Finally, we get +3/+3 this turn for 2 and a Justice in the form of Barrel Through. It is a fast spell because it is a combat trick. And you also gain either a fire or a primal influence. So this is the Ixten spell / fixer. Yeah, this card is awesome. Of note, we still have Kira in the format. So you can make her a 5/5 for 4. You know, that's a pretty good deal, just saying. And she gets a unit off the board. So yeah, I like Barrel Through. I think it's solid. I think it's a really good card. Going to do some work, especially if you can combo it off with double damage. Weaponsmith. Ulrich Herd Ward, I guess is fine. It feels a little expensive. It gives one of your units and then yourself Aegis, which is fine, but it's for 3. It is a fast spell, so eat a removal spell. Like I said, Face Aegis doesn't seem that important in this format. I could be wrong, but as of right now, meh. And then Armor Smith, some more ways to give yourself armor. All right, guys, that was Justice. I think Justice is really kind of capitalizing on the more aggressive equip weapons and stuff with a little bit of armor synergies, or not a little bit. It's pretty strong in the armor synergies, so I feel like they want to see that a little more. But it does feel aggressive with its pump spells and its units like the add-on or mastered arms and all the weapons to pump your guys. So yeah, I like Justice. I think it is pretty strong. All right, we're down to the home stretch, guys. We're going into time now. So time, we have Wormstone is still in the format. So once again, still playing into that Spells Matters theme. We have Watchful Amanera. So the 2/4 for 3, and then when you play a spell, you can scout this turn for free, which is one of the most missed triggers. But yeah, of note, they did remove Horned Vorlunk. So now this is kind of like the premier time card, I feel like, as far as like defense, because Vorlunk was one more, but you got one more attack and overwhelm, so it blocked good and attacked good. That's gone. So yeah, Watchful Amanera is kind of the go-to, I feel like. Training Ground is still here. Once again, worried about spells. It's considered pretty much your 2-drop. Ooh, Trailmaker is back. This card is awesome. Definitely, I mean, I didn't see how they weren't going to play it if they're so heavy on the fixing. Trailmaker is the 2/1 Explorer for 2 in a time. Maximum power +1, so it ramps you, but summon, gain an influence of your choice. Yeah, this card is awesome. It is extremely vulnerable, but it does ramp you and it does fix your influence. So this card is great. You can take this pretty highly because it just lets you play all the spells. And at the very least, if you got nothing going on and later on in the game, you can just bash in with it. And even if they do kill it, you lose your power, but you still gained the influence. So maybe those, actually, I actually now I do think those legendaries, the 5-color legendaries, are just completely unplayable now. If people are going to be playing 5 or 3 colors, I feel like it's very hard pressed. Unless you just commit to it. You know, you open it, pack one, pick one, and you're like, all right, we're going to take fixing just to make sure we hit our, 5 influence. But Temple Scribe is back. All right, nothing crazy there. Temple Artisan, meh. Sustaining Heart, meh. More spells, I guess. Sandstorm, man. So a lot of spells that I really don't feel like do anything. Runic Protector. I think this card is going to be another do nothing considering everything that time has in the first packs. But it's an 8/8 Sentinel with Pledge for 8. Yeah, it's just another whatever fodder. Ooh, Primeval Plover. This is a 1/2 flying dinosaur for 4 in a time. So a little lackluster on the front end, but it does have a summon effect. Give one of your other units +1/+2 while you have Primeval Plover in play. So it does enable an extra twist or two. It does let your flyers get in there, maybe ground units. But of note, you have to be careful on the twist. You can't really twist something like 3 times or whatever because of the fact that if they end up removing Plover, then they'll kill your twist unit. So you have to be careful about that. But this card does help. It helps push damage. It's evasive on its own, so it will do some work. I think Plover is not too bad. It's not crazy good. Don't get me wrong. I don't feel like we got there, but it's not bad. Porcelain Mask, that is fine. Plated Goliath, we've seen already. Maddening Whispers, man, so many haymakers. Every color is getting their big payoff back from the previous formats. Maddening Whisper is a fast spell at uncommon for 4 time. Puts an enemy unit into its owner hand. So slightly overcosted for the Blink and the Swirl of Sands and things that we're used to, but Amplify 2. Put an additional enemy unit into its owner's hand. So for 6 and then for 8, this thing puts 2 and then 3 units back in your opponent's hand at fast speed, so it could do it mid-combat or do it even worse at their end of their turn. Yeah, this card is a blowout. So I've won so many games on the back of this and lost so many games on this. They end of turn bounce 3 things that you thought you were going to be able to block with, and they get in there and just bash, or they do it aggressively and they save themselves some life, and then now you have like 6 power, but they bounced 9 power worth of spells or units back in your hand, so you're only able to play 1 or 2 back, and it's huge tempo. Yeah, Maddening Whispers is phenomenal. It does a really good job. Plus, with all the extra weapons now in Justice, I would not, and maybe even in Fire, wouldn't be surprised if this is a good way to drop those. Lumen Attendant. Ooh, this one's good. I like this. A little bit of recurrence. So here we go. Some more Void shenanigans going on. This is a 3/3 Radiant for 4 time. It has Void Bound, so it prevents loops. All right. Ultimate, pay 3 and discard a card to draw another card from your Void. Play a 1/1 Wisp. So you're kind of up like a card, roughly, maybe half a card, because you can pitch like a Sigil late game. You get a 1/1 Wisp for your troubles, and then it gets like your best card Notice it says a card, not unit. So you don't have to draw a unit. It could be a spell if you want from your void to play again. So I think Lumina Attendant is fantastic. You're upgrading a sigil to a unit plus something that you want. So yeah, I like Lumina Attendant quite a bit. I think it's a great addition, and it also once again is insurance for those Xenon Void decks to throw a bunch of stuff into your void. Learned Herbalist is back, or still here. Gibbering Jackal. All right, we'll see what the killer thing works. Initiation Bell, Infinite Hourglass, like we talked about earlier. Humbug Swarm, okay, it worked. That combos really well with Horn of Plenty. It makes, for 6 time at slow speed, you make 3 1/1 flying humbugs. So kind of a slightly quicker Blood Nurse. I like it. I think this card, especially it being time, means that you have a good chance of having something like a Horn of Plenty to pump up your guys. So I like it. I think Humbug is going to be a decent finisher in some games. And at the very least, it makes 3 units for 1 card, which we've already established is beneficial in like Xenon, where you have pump spells and things like that, or sack outlets. So yeah, I like it. Ooh, here's another spicy one. We have Friendly Wisp. This is a 1/1 flying wisp for 2 at a time. And ultimate, when you play a unit with 5 or attack or more, draw 2 cards. Combos well with Stiggy. I don't know. This might actually, now I think about it, because Behemoth comes down as a 4/6, so it wouldn't trigger that. But Locust Hatcher, well, that's a rare. Stiggy is pretty much the biggest one, I think, from this. I'm trying to think. Xenon, you can use the Thorn Beast to sack something. But yeah, I mean, 1/1 flyer for 2 is just fine. It's serviceable. It does help trigger Onslaught. And then later in the game, it can draw you 2 cards. I think it's fine. The fact that Behemoth doesn't quite trigger it is a little bit of a downer, but Tremor Shocker does. There we go. That's what it is. Tremor Shocker and Stiggy are what really make this happen. Okay. Yeah, I like it. Eternity Core for that ramp, but I think we're fine, especially with Shift and really Time's Curve kind of topping off at 5 and 6. I think we don't really need Eternity Core that bad to take an entire turn off. Dispel is still here. Dysfunction or Disjunction. Death Strike. Bolster. Heyo. So this to me, I think, is going to be quite impressive and a bit of a blowout. It is 4. It is 4 time in a fast spell, but I kind of see it as like a reverse Flash Grenade, and I think Flash Grenade is pretty darn good. So this one is you and your units get 2 health permanently, period. Like, so I think it's even better than a Flash Grenade. Yeah, I think this card is going to lead to some blowouts. It hits all your units, so the wider your board, the better. If you have twist units, you're going to be able to twist again 2 times, so that's strong. And it's permanent, period. Like, it's like aggressive Earth Sign, you know what I mean? But in a color you want to be in. Yeah, I think Bolster is quite strong. I think it's going to do some pretty good things in the game. Be Gone. So bounce spell for 1. It is slow speed, so you're not going to really get them in combat with this. But it's fine. It's good. Knocks off armaments and things like that. Awaken Sentinel, Awaken the Aegis. Some more fixing and more spells matters, if that's the thing. Averex Familiar, we're already familiar with. See what I did there? Archive Curator. This is a 1/4 flying mage for 4 at a time. And summon, you may silence another unit. So, like you guys have heard me say before, silence is great when it's tacked on to something else. And I think a 1/4 flyer is actually quite strong. It helps block things like Storm Elementals and Flickerlings. So it will do quite a bit of work for you. And yeah, it silences twist units. So it's good early, it's good on curve, it's good late. Yeah, I like Archive Curator as well. If you are in some form of, like, if you could play a Bear Arms on it, or if you're in Combray, you can slap a weapon on it. It's a great attacker as well. Yeah, I like Archive Curator, and it's common. So you're going to see quite a bit of silence effects to kind of keep opponents in check, and you're not semi-wasting a card with Dispel. Granted, Dispel does draw you a card, but still, tacked onto a unit, I think, is always better. So you lose the fast speed ability of it, but you get the flexibility of it being a unit that can block. So I like it. I like it quite a bit. It can take out deadly units. Yeah. Ancient Excavator, still in the format. Amber Ring, like we had talked about, which I think is just fine in an attrition match. If your deck is the kind of deck that wants to go late, then I think that it's going to see some serious, payoffs. But overall, Amber Ring is just kind of neutral or medium. And then finally, our last color, guys, we're almost there. Thank you so much for bearing with me, is fire. Fire, we have Wild Centauri. This is the 5/3 for Centaur Mage for 5 red. When you play a spell, Wildfire Centauri gets a +1/+1 and quick draw this turn. Pretty solid. I mean, getting a 6/4 quick draw, it's legit. It's gonna get in there. It doesn't have Overwhelm, so they can chump block it, but yeah, that's going to be a thing. And once again, spells matter. So spell matters, armor matters, and void shenanigans. We have Surveiller. Sentinels are not a thing. Don't really know why you need a 5/2. I think it's super vulnerable in this format, so it's going to be extreme medium. Stone Scar Maul. Man, this is kind of tough because this thing is quite a good finisher. It is a +6/+3 relic weapon for 6 red. I actually like this a little bit better than Rubbler. It's double red instead of triple red. It's 6 instead of 7. It is only 3 armor instead of 5, but it has Overwhelm. So in most cases, this is either going to plow through your opponent's like chump blocker, dealing damage to them, and then clearing the way for your other attackers to get in there, or it's going to trade up with, or it's going to trade with their biggest unit. You're going to take a little bit of a hit, but you're fire, so you're going to bash. So it's going to be interesting. I think some Mercano decks or some type of aggressive fire decks are going to want one of these in their deck to finish off the game. I think it's a decent finisher. Not super excited about it, but I think it's going to do some work. Let's see. Staff of the Magistrate's already been there. Softfoot Burglar. So this is the 1/1 for 1 and a red. And when you play a spell, Softfoot Burglar gets a +1/+1 this turn. So it is only this turn, not permanent. And Renown, so when you target it with something, either a weapon or a spell, create and draw a treasure trove. So you somewhat, on the payment plan, get your card back. I think it's okay. It's fine. I wouldn't knock anyone for putting it in their deck, but it's also not completely busted. So yeah, I think once again, they're just playing into the spells matters thing. Keep struggling down. Let's see. Scale Channel Sorcerer. When you play a 2/4 for 4, and we play a spell, it gets +2 attack, so it becomes a 4/4. Pretty medium, but yeah, clear as day. Fire is one of the spells matters colors, so I believe it is Ixten that they want the spells matters to be. I believe, because yeah, justice, yeah. So. All right, let's see. Research Assistant, not gonna spend any time on it. I think that card is just bad. Refracted Sentinel, the 6/4 for Sentinel for 3 and a fire. Summon, enemy player plays a sigil of their choice from their deck depleted. So you ramp them in hopes of getting a 6/4 on the board extremely early, and they don't have a way to deal with it. You're definitely taking a gamble in the early game by playing it. Sometimes it will work in your favor, sometimes it will not. Sometimes you play it and then they have an answer for it immediately. 4 health is not that much. Late game, I think the fact that it allows you to play 2 spells in 1 turn definitely has some benefits. I think it's stronger actually in the late game just because of that. You're getting decent amount of stats for cheap, and you really don't care that they get the extra sigil. Reforge, not necessarily a thing I'm excited about. Prior Elemental, there you go. This one's a good one. Prior Elemental is a 4/3 elemental with charge for 6 and a red, but Prior Elemental costs 4 less, i.e. 2, if you have played a spell this turn. This is actually a really good payoff for a Spells Matters deck, because, for example, you can, like, let's say turn 2 you play a 2-drop, turn 3 you can char their 2-drop or their 3-drop, and then play this guy for 2 and swing with your 2-drop and a 4/3. Pretty busted. Or, of course, in turn 5, you can do it with Streets of Flame and stuff like that, or bounce their guy. So yeah, Pyre Elemental is pretty solid. I like it in really aggressive decks. I think you can have the potential to seriously blow out some people with it. Overheat is still in the format. Oni Quartermaster. All right, so here's a payoff for all those weapons that we saw earlier. Oni Quartermaster is a 2/2 Oni for 3 and a fire. When you play a weapon, draw a card. Yeah, so it's fine. Gives you some synergy. The good thing is that a 2/2 is just serviceable. You are slightly paying a little high, but the potential payoff is nice. And the good thing is that because most opponents don't want you drawing a bunch of cards, they might let it stick around. They might not. Of note, though, it is just 2, so Char takes it out. You might not want to block with it, etc., etc. But if you have critical mass of weapons, I could see this drawing you quite a bit of cards. To include, remember that the Justice coin is a +1/+1 weapon when you onslaught it. So that is something to keep in mind. You get to play a sigil and draw a card. Seems pretty good to me. And you are getting it, you know, in packs 2 and 3. So you're able to kind of see where you're at or adjust prior next to that. We have Manufacture. This is a warp spell at slow speed for 3 and a fire. Create and draw 3 1/1 grenadins. Of note, you are drawing them, so it's not playing them. And it does have warp, so that synergizes there. And it makes you 3 units for 1 card, and it is a spell. So plenty of synergy there, multiple archetypes in the format. So I think they did a pretty good job in these curated packs of like maximizing their slots and putting cards that go in multiple archetypes. And I like that. I like when they do that, because then you have a little more flexibility in your building. You don't have to be like, all right, I guess we are the dedicated void deck. We have to take every card that deals with the void. Instead, you can take cards like this, like, okay, are we the go wide? Are we the spells matter? Are we the warp? I like it. It's slow. It is slow. Like not just because it's a slow spell, but you're paying 6 for 3 1/1s essentially. So keep that in mind. Magma Javelin is back in the format. This is quite relevant because now Fire has a method of dealing 4 damage to things and not having to wait all the way to 6 for outdraw. So you are taking the hit. It is a +4/+1 relic weapon for 4 and a fire. But yeah, I mean, it will get a lot of things off the board, including pesky flyers. Helps it deal a little bit better with flying units, I feel like. If you don't have, you're less in need of like 2 for 1ing yourself to get rid of things with 4 health. The Monera, for example. Yeah, so I like this. I like this. It is still susceptible to things like the Court Mage, you know, the 2/5 and stuff like that. But I think it does some serious work. Next up, we have, let's see, scrolling up quite a bit. Wow, where'd we go? Oh, wait, never mind. Improvised Rubbler is here. We already talked about it. It's fine, but meh. 7 is a lot. Horde Leader, we've seen it before. I'm kind of medium on it. I don't think it's that great. It does some work in a very aggressive deck, but I feel like you need to have the right curve out for it to happen. So, Hidden Shiv, yeah, I think even with all the weapon synergies, this card is still just unplayable, so we're not going to do it. Here we go. Hardsight Cyclops. I like this guy. I haven't played him very often, but I do like him when I do play him. This is a 4/3 Cyclops or Sentinel for 4 Fire. Amplify 2, so 6, 8, and 10. Exhaust an enemy unit. So not quite as good as Combustion Brawler. In fact, yeah, never mind. I mean, I guess the combo's decent there. Sometimes you just get to play the 4/3 for 3 or for 4/3 for 4. But I think it's just medium. It's fine. Grenadin Drone, like we talked about, that's a good aggressive unit to spread out the board if you want to go wide aggressive, or give you 2 units for 1 card, which helps with the sack outlets. Fire got Forgeborn again, which is a 7/7 Sentinel for 7 triple fire. Has Overwhelm, has Pledge, and then you could pay 9 to give Forgeborn +2 attack this turn for each of your units. Yeah, this card ends games extremely quickly. Of no doubt, 7 is a lot. But like I said, if you guys have ever seen this card, it is hella scary and it can close out games, especially in a stalled board state. You just pay the 9, give this guy like a +10, so swing him for 17 Overwhelm, and then they have to trade or they're just gonna take. Yeah, this card is strong, very strong. Like I said, Flame Strike is now out of the format. We got Firemain Lioness. This card is awesome. I like this card quite a bit. It is not a windmill slam, but it's just good. It's just a good draft card. 2/2 Elemental Cap for 2 and a red. So baseline 2/2 for 2, fine, serviceable. Amplify 2, play a 1/1 Wildcat with charge. Yeah, this card fits literally everywhere in your curve. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. It goes in there. It gives you some value. I like it. Like I said, nothing super flashy about it. It's just all around solid card. Fevered. Jeez. Sorry. Fevered Scout, 2/2 Explorer Soldier for 3 and a fire. And when you play a spell, Fevered Scout gets a +2/+2 this turn. So kind of like a peak top Trekker semi replacement, just worse. But once again, spells matter versus Scout. So yeah, not gonna spend too much time on that. Dust Blind. It is, I guess, the version of Entangled, but whatever. I'm like, it's Warp, exhaust 2 enemy units for 5. Yeah, I mean, if it's not the last card you cast for the game to win, then you're just not playing it. Of course, since we have Amplify cards, they put in Doom Painter, 2/2 for 3 mage. Your Amplify cost are reduced by 1. Doom Painter can't reduce Amplify cost below 1, so you can't, like, put it at 0 so you can amplify infinite amount of times. But yeah, this is strong. I like it. Man, you know what? Never mind. I'm thinking back of the last format, and every time I tried to play it, like, I think one time it benefited. The rest of the time it was just pretty mediocre, because you have to have this in play and then have your Amplify card and then have enough power to, like, make it useful. So yeah, it's fine if it does its thing, but Core Scavenger, 5/4. Nah, I'm just not even gonna bother, because 7, there's way better things to be doing with your power at 7. Consuming Flames, it's already in the format. Conflagrate, there we go. Here's another MVP that's made it back. So Conflagrate, wow, we're gonna have this and Streets of Flames. Wow, and Char. Wow, fire is strong. Deal 3 damage to an enemy unit. Oh, I guess it goes with the spells matter synergy. There we go. Deal 3 damage to an enemy unit, so it doesn't go face. It's a fast spell for 2 and a fire, and it has Amplify 5, so 7 and then 12. Deal 3 damage to an additional enemy unit. So typically you see this played for 7, and I mean, granted, it's perfectly fine for 2. 100% fine to just do it for 2 power, kill one thing and move on with your life. But later on in the game, typically kills like a flyer and something other less relevant, but you're still getting 2 for 1. So yeah, Conflagrate is awesome. It is a fast spell, so it helps you win combat and things like that. I think it is very strong. Cannon Bear, a 5/6 Gunslinger Centaur for 6 red. It has Warp, which is nice, but once again, less exciting because it's so heavy. And Summon, deal 1 damage to an enemy. I think there's plenty of things in this format with 1 health, so it will typically kill something or finish something off. If you attack with a smaller unit, they block. Think about how many times that your coin killed something, right? Your granite coin. This guy's gonna do the same thing, and then you get a great body with it. So I like that. Oh baby, here is another finisher. Bottoms up. Fast spell. Give a unit. So it doesn't have to be yours, but I wouldn't see why you give your opponents, unless you want to, like, combo it off with a downfall or something weird like that. +2 attack this turn for 1 and a red. Amplify 2, give a unit +2 attack this turn. So once again, it's a unit, so you can give it to the same. You can pump 1 unit a bunch of times, or you can pump various units of your team. So yeah, this is a pretty busted card. It wins so many games, and it's so hard to play around because it's so flexible. You can put it on whatever is not blocked. You can put it on, spread it across multiple units. You can pump it all to an overwhelm unit. Yeah, this card is great. It wins games. You definitely want to take this highly. Barkeep's Friend is pretty medium, and Backpacker's Machete still in it. All right, guys, that is it. We did it. We made it through. I have no idea how long this is going to be, honestly, because I've taken a couple of breaks myself. So hopefully when I edit it, it's not extremely long. But if not, hey, you guys aren't strangers to me doing long podcasts. Hopefully you don't mind. If you do, let me know in the comments below, or visit me on Twitch live, and we'll talk about it. But overall, not too bad. I don't think they're really warping the format all that much. I think it looks like they're just kind of adding to the synergies that are already there and kind of boosting up the ones that were less played, hopefully to see more play. The biggest addition is just the fact now that there is so much fixing. I feel like you are going to see a ton of 3-color decks now versus the typical 2 with a light splash. So we'll see. We'll see if that really makes people go really greedy and more efficient decks can kind of steamroll them, or if, like, it's just a more diversified format. But I think it's really clear, as you can tell, that they're not really playing too much into some of the more original. Actually, they are. I think this complements the set really well. So it's going to feel like a modified Dark Frontier draft format instead of it being an entirely new format on its own. So I'm excited. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and I look forward to playing it. Hopefully after this, I will do a draft video and post that up as well for you guys. And yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below of this draft format, if you've drafted it already or later on, and what you're excited to play. But yeah, all right, guys, I think that's going to do it for our Trials of Grodov draft primer. All right, ladies and gentlemen, time for our final segment, which is What's the Play? This one's a little interesting. It came from one of my more recent drafts. Our opponent is on Elysian, 3 of 6 power, 1 card in hand, 6 life. They have the 0-3 Yeti that kills a stunned unit. They have a 2-2 Peak Top Trekker, and they have the Aerial Ace, which is the 2-3 Flying Aegis unit. All 3 are readied. It is our turn. We have 5 power. We are Haru, so Justice Primal. We have a Bounty Hunter in play. That's a 4-1. We have a single tick mark shifted 3-3 War Wagon. And then we have a 1-4 Looter, the flyer that draws 2 and discards 2. We are at 5 life. Our opponent is at 6. We drew a Primal Sigil. We have the +0/+3 and flying weapon. We have a test pilot. We have a plate maker, the 2/5 rare that for 4 justice. You play it, you twist it to give another unit a 2/2 weapon or sword, and then we have an elder meditant. Once again, we're at 5. Our opponent's at 6, and we just stabilized the last turn by retributing their frost elemental. So, what's the play? So, we wanted to play around them having a bounce or a way to trigger Peak Top Trekker and things like that. I was trying to figure out, like, how do we get blown out here? And so we were discussing whether, you know, we make the Bounty Hunter a 4/4 flyer and get in there, but that wasn't going to be enough damage, you know, or playing the plate maker, things like that. Like, we had to play around that. It was 1 turn before we were able to kill them, but we knew it's kind of one of those weird places where, depending on what their hand was, they could kill us if they had like a Frost Nova, or I'm sorry, Frost Flash Freeze. So I believe, let me double check, because I actually want to make sure there's multiple lines of play that we could take here. That's why I think it's interesting, because all of them are extremely viable. So I would like, that's why I like these kinds of discussions. So we end up playing our Primal Sigil, obviously going up to 6 power. There's no reason not to. Man, it's so funny. I'm watching this video. If you guys could see on YouTube, like, I'm literally talking through it because this was my stream. I do apologize. I should probably watch the video to see what my final play was, but it's one of those things where if I scroll too far in front, like, I end up just being like, let's see. So what do I end up doing? I play the plate maker and passed. Yeah, because, and then our opponent just conceded after that. Yeah, so I ended up playing, I figured it was better to just add to the board, because if I buffed any of the units, I felt like they would have blown us out with a bounce or something like that. So I wasn't going to put the relic or the weapon on any of my units. I wanted to develop the board, so I had to figure out what was the most efficient unit. And I think putting the plate maker down, because then it added double damage, and I could have slapped a plate on, you know, 2 units and attacked, etc., etc. So that's what we ended up doing. Not the most exciting, but I still think the fact that there were multiple plays to take in consideration, whether you want to try to kill your opponent as quickly as possible, or if you wanted to stay alive, what you wanted to play around in, is the play of, or what's the play of the week. But all right, guys, that is going to do it. I feel like this was a doozy of an episode, but thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments below, once again, what you're excited to play in this draft format, if you're excited about it or not. I am Jedi, aka Caesar Crowd Pleaser, and you can catch me on Twitter and YouTube at EJthePodcast. Definitely follow us on YouTube, or Twitter, I'm sorry. I mean, don't get me wrong, follow us on YouTube as well, but on Twitter, that way you know whenever I'm going live, whenever new videos get posted, whenever new podcasts go up. And of course, I respond to it quite quickly. So if you have like, you know, what's pack one, pick one, what's the pick, etc., and things like that, I'd be more than happy to have the discussion with you. If you guys want to follow my real life journey, you could Instagram me at CaesarLabear7. Once again, I stream live every Sunday, Monday, Tuesday mornings at twitch.tv/Jedi_EJ. And then in the links below, you'll find our Discord and my email if you want to message me offline. But all right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. That is going to do it. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm super excited about this format. Next episode will probably be either a first impressions or a sunset show or a combination of the two. And eventually I may end up doing a slight brew section in this podcast, because like I said, we do focus on limited play, but I will occasionally talk about constructed and do tournament reports. So I'm brewing with the new cards. I want to show you guys my trials and tribulations about that. But that is going to do it. So until next time. Oh yeah, and don't forget to like and share and subscribe and rate and all that good stuff. It really helps us out. Definitely check out, once again, the Misplay Podcast, the Eternal Struggle Podcast, and Farming Eternal Podcast. They are all great content, and by you guys supporting us, it helps grow this great game that we enjoy so much and helps build a community. And be on the lookout for this project that I'm working on that hopefully could bring quite a bit of hype to Eternal. All right, guys, once again, until next time, happy gaming.